Good morning. Today is the 3rd of January 2013, and we are again with our wonderful friend Tara from New Delhi Ashram. And this morning, Tara, I would like to talk to you, or have you tell us, when we started the flower book, how you brought flowers that I grew in Matrimandia, brought them to you, how you took them to Mother, and later on how she gave the comments. Because people don't know that.
You see, for a long time we had been discussing about printing a new volume of the Book of Flowers with actual photographs. But there were people who were not in favor of the actual photographs because in those days money was hard to come by and it would be too expensive. So they finally settled on sketches. They would do the flowers, the book of flowers with sketches. And my friend Eckhard and Theodora, Theodora offered to finance the book. But then we got discussing about the quotations to be put along with the flowers. Theodora wanted only from Savitri and nowhere else. And Richard and I, we told her that just from Savitri it will be difficult to find quotations for everything. So let us keep it open to all works of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And finally we started raising funds, and I made a letter to the Mother that we would raise funds for the book, and I made a register where I would enter the name of the person, how much money they had given, and their signature. And immediately Mother pulled out 200 rupees from her bag, and that is how the first contribution for the flower book started. And we then started working quite seriously on it, and that is the time you came into the picture and you started giving more ideas about the botanical names and how to formulate the whole system so that it becomes easy to search for a flower. While all this was going on, when I talked to Mother about it, she said, but how can you find quotations of flowers for in our writings for all flowers? That is not possible, she said. And it is also not necessary. So somehow the whole thing fizzled out, Theodora backed out, and it remained quiet for a while. And in those days I used to go up to Mother with my notebook, and I was working with her on thoughts and aphorisms. I used to take the questions and she used to write the answers. Then she would meditate with me for a while and then give me flowers, and about half an hour every day I was going up to her room. When she was coming towards the end of the thoughts and aphorisms, then she said, oh, we are finishing. Now what do you want to do after this? I said, Mother, the Book of Flowers. What do you want with the Book of Flowers? I said, Mother, you said that the quotations we could not select from anywhere else. Why don't you give us the quotations for each flower? So actually she went into a trance for a while before agreeing. And then she said, okay, I will do with you the Book of Flowers, but I have one condition, and that is that I will not see any picture of a flower and write the comments for it. I will only see the actual flower and then write the comments. So the work started and I began collecting flowers every day. In the beginning it was not difficult because whatever was available, everything comments had to be written. So I would take 5, 6, 7, 8 flowers a day, and she would write as many comments as she wanted to do, and then the next day and the next day it went on. And of course, it was not so smooth. There were many days when she didn't do. Darshan days came in between, or she had too much work, or she was tired, or she was not keeping well, or whatever. But the work started and continued until mother, at that time, whatever was available, she finished the book of flowers.
Which was the year?
70,
71,
71,
72.
72. Yes. Now these are comments that mother made on each flower.
Yes, these are comments
Yes.
that mother made. So when the nearby flowers finished, then I started going to the gardens. And when everybody got to know that the work was being done, and every day I used to bring the comments and give them to Richard and Narad. They would sit together and work on the book details. I was never involved with the work of the book. I only was getting the work done from whatever was to be done with mother, right?
Yes.
Then every evening I would bring and give to Richard, and next day they would both sit together and work on it. Now, as soon as the gardeners got to know, and including Narad, everybody started growing new flowers. And they were not on the list, and I had already made my notebooks in alphabetical order from A to Z. So when a new flower came, it was not in my book. Sometimes in the last page there was place after the last page. She would do it, but mostly then I was bringing cards, and on those cards she was writing the name of the new flower and then putting the comments also. So all the names that she gave while working with me, which did not exist before, I have a card system. The whole thing is in cards separately. You must have seen it in those are the cards which she gave names afterwards. And they started growing flowers, new flowers. Every other day I was taking new flowers
I think I sent 81 flowers from the Matrimandir Gardens alone. And
New,
you had
all new.
all new. And you had made a comment once about the big hibiscus
Yeah,
that
big
you brought to mother.
Big hibiscus, what happened is that there were so many different colors that afterwards I started getting confused. And I think most people are confused today also. But Narad and Richard worked on them. And
tell about mother's exclamation when she saw some of these new beautiful Hawaiian
Yes.
hibiscus.
What did she say? I don't remember now.
Oh, you told me she would say magnifique, and she would
Yes,
say all
yes.
kinds of...
That she said
she
for
loved
so
them.
many flowers, many flowers. She said that. And actually, I don't even remember. I have many little notes in my book for it. One of the new flowers that came was this, what is now called cheerful endeavor. And I brought a bunch of them. They grow in groups, so I brought a bunch of them, and she took them and she kept looking at it. And then she put it aside. And then she finished the other flowers, then she picked up that bunch again, and then she went into a trance. And then quite a time, I think 10 minutes or something, she was in trance. Then she came out of the trance and she said, you know, it was beautiful. I saw you, means me, climbing, running up a mountain with these flowers in my hands, and there was a very cheerful expression on my face as I ran up the mountain. So she called it cheerful endeavor. And since then I have kept this as my flower. I call the cheerful endeavor my flower. So when we started Mirambika Free Progress School in Pondicherry, in Delhi, the Mirambika Free Progress School, we wanted a logo for it. And it was an uphill task, because to accept that something like that in Delhi, it is still an uphill task, something like that. So we gave the logo of this cheerful endeavor to the Mirambika school also. So that was how many times mother went into trance before she gave the significance of new flower, and she was always happy to see new flowers that were grown by the different gardeners, and which I brought. And I always noticed that the big flowers, she was more attracted to when the flowers were big. And
fragrance.
yes, she would always smell the flower also before she gave the significance. And it was very rarely that she gave the significance immediately. She always sort of communed with the flowers. She looked at it for a long time, and she would think for quite some, we say think, but whatever it was, then she would give the significance of the flowers. And it has been a beautiful experience, and my attachment with flowers has remained. I can't pass by anywhere without seeing what flower is growing around. If there is a plant, I have to look at it. So wherever I go, I'm always looking at the plants.
You would give the name on the same day or sometime later?
No. Once in a while it has happened that she gave the next day or the third day, or. But usually she gave it. Usually the same day it finished.
She gave in French or English?
All in French. The comments are also written in French. Unfortunately, we've not printed the book in French, have we? With the originals, it should be printed in the original, because there is not such a market for the French. That is the problem.
Yes.
And then you get stuck with the volumes of books, and also stuck with the finances that go into it. They're expensive.
They have brought out recently the latest one, and they upgraded.
2-volume edition. Yes.
And then very often I had questions that I wanted to ask about flowers, which I wrote, and so I have a separate notebook in which I asked questions. And very often Richard and Narad, they would give me the questions which they had, which I would ask. But these have all been printed. I don't know why they did not find a place as it is in the Book of Flowers. But in my book, Growing Up with the Mother, I have put a whole chapter and put those questions and answers, because there were questions and answers about colors, about little differences of sizes. But today it has become very complicated. For example, Cana and Friendship with the Divine, the little small, there is everything, every size in between is available.
Yes.
So where does friendship end and where does the center begin, God alone knows. So today we are also getting complicated.
And now hybrid flowers are coming, so
that is
it
what
not
I'm
the
saying.
Same like mother's time, so it is very difficult to name also.
Well, we have begun a new flower book, and I wanted to tell you about it, because the first flower book that was done by the botanical name. And the second one that was done by significance, arbitrarily grouped significances. So what has come to me, and I have people now all over the world working, is on the outer spine of the book will be in the color of the rainbow. You have a blue flower, you open to the blue section, it goes from small to large. If it's not in there, Mother didn't name it.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on.
But we should also put all this on the net already.
Oh,
Somebody
sure.
has done.
Yeah, and I'm working with him also.
Arvind Reddy. Reddy.
Arvind Reddy.
Reddy,
Yeah. Blossom Like a Flower is the website. So it's going along. It's a lot of work though. But color is not so costly anymore to print color.
No, not
With
so.
digitally.
No, now
Not
it
so
is
difficult.
not. And also the colors, there are so many shades.
Yes.
Like compassion, Sri Aurobindo's compassion. It was that dark mauve color that was there, or violet, whatever you may call it. That was the only color we had.
Yeah.
And she called it Sri Aurobindo's compassion. And lo and behold, so many colors came. When I brought the other colors, when the new flowers significance, there were many such flowers which Mother did not give significance but amalgamated it into the older this thing. For example, Sri Aurobindo's compassion. Then I took to her so many colors, and then she said, they're all Sri Aurobindo's compassion. So that became easy. But some she started giving integral and vital and mental and so on, and now today the same things have different colors.
But I think we call that a general significance when she gave it for one
Yes.
significance for many,
Yes.
many different colors.
Yes. And now today you not only have different colors, you have the double, you have the single, and then
Yes.
so it is.
I heard also she had changed the name of the flower after years later.
One or two.
Yes, only
The
one.
flower also changes aspiration.
Like that miracle was Sri Aurobindo,
No,
in
air
Auroville,
of Auroville.
Air of Auroville. That when I took that to her, then she called it miracle. I said, but Mother, this already has a significance, Air of Auroville. Then she said, I'm changing it. It will be called miracle.
And the Oroville hibiscus that she gave, I remember you telling me that she said we needed a wider name or something, and so she named all of those the new creation. Like Charm of Oroville became Charm of the new creation. Beauty of Oroville became Beauty of the new creation.
Yes, those many such things happened. I can't offhand
Yes.
remember everything, but there were many such things that she changed. Small changes there were said, but totally changing the name there were very few.
So I think that people will have a good idea now of the history of our flower work with Mother and the books that have come out. And of course Tara was the foremost person to take all the flowers to Mother. I think almost all the flowers you took to her.
Yes.
Maybe once in a while Richard might have taken a flower, I don't know, but I think almost everything was yours from you.
There are totally 800?
No,
More.
now there are
Now
more
there
than
are more.
1,000.
Close
At
to-
that time it was, when the work started, well, it was around 800.
Yeah.
I remember because I made Lizel's book from our Game of Flowers. Lizel made the book, and when she made the book, that was the base with which we started working further.
Right.
So then it has gone from one to now, based on the work that I did with Mother, these people are continuing. And I often think that we should name the new flowers and put a separate category to it. Like there is one flower which is called in Delhi, the common name is ice flower. It is only absolutely like a
It's
ground
an
cover,
ice plant, yes.
and it blooms only in the sun. The minute the sun goes, it closes. I don't know why. The day I saw that flower, I said, smile. It is smiling at me. So I said, smile. And I call it smile, and it is not written anywhere. But you see, there may be some other people. I know that Richard has named a few flowers also when he felt something. I don't see anything wrong, but I feel it is wrong to mix up with the Mother's books. But we can always name the rest of them and do it ourselves.
Yes.
And not mix it with
Agree.
the Mother's significances. So that people know that this is separate, that is separate.
Right.
But what's wrong with naming new flowers or giving significance to them if somebody feels from within? I felt with many flowers, but I don't do it because then there's always
But smile stays with you.
with me only. I don't.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, tell
It's
them.
not something that I say that this is this.
Right.
But for that one has to have inner contact opening communication.
That is what I said. When somebody suddenly feels something,
Yes,
then
yes.
it's okay. But then it may be that the same flower Narad sees and gives another significance, I give another significance. But if we keep in touch, I think we could do that.
Yeah, and keep it separate from Mother's work.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you, Tara. That was wonderful. What did you want to tell us about today? I know I met with Priti the other night, and she said, "Oh, ask Tara to tell you when she was a class monitor." And she dictated, and we had to take things down.
Didn't I talk
No,
about this?
no, not the other day. No,
about Mother's class?
no. Your classes when you were the monitor of the class.
That is Mother's classes. I was always,
Ah,
from
I
its
see.
inception, she made me the monitor
Oh,
in the green group classes. And at present, I'm working on that book of the green group classes. She started with I told you
Yes, yes.
how the classes started. Then she had 3 days a week, 1 day dictation, 1 day recitation, and 1 day storytelling. And she would write, I had my notebook in which she would write the dictations. And it was not only her own quotations that she gave. She gave quotations from many great philosophers, and she knew them by heart. She would just write. I think it is the same with Huta's book. There is a book of Huta's with quotations from various philosophers that Mother had given her those quotations. They were all in Mother's memory. It is not that she consulted notebooks or books or something and then wrote the quotations. She knew a lot of quotations of Buddha and I don't know, all these Western philosophers and all by heart, and she would dictate them. So in my notebook, very often she gave quotations even from outside her own and showed in those works. So those quotations she would write in my notebook for the next class, and I would type them out and put them on the physical education office notice board, and all the children came during their recess from the school and copied it down, and then they would, when Mother dictated, they would write it, and then each notebook Mother corrected herself in the beginning, and afterwards it was only Chitra, Ranganath, Namita and Shanta. These 4 notebooks she continued correcting till the end, but the others we corrected, and I told you how she gave marks for
Yes,
that.
yes.
Now, yesterday when I was talking with Vijay, and he told me that we used to go to copy the dictation or recitation on the notice board, and we would already learn all the spellings and even that by heart, and before Mother started dictating we would already be writing the dictation down. So it did happen. Children who were intelligent just picked up.
One thing we didn't have time for last interview was you were going to tell us about acting and plays and
No.
music performances, Savitri. I had so many questions about what you did. And
The first play I was on the stage, it's interesting. The first December, it must have been, I came in 1944 and 1945. You see, there is one thing. I was sent to a boarding school in Lahore at the age of 7. And I was one of the youngest in that boarding, and I remember that I was quite miserable. That's not an age when people are sent to a boarding school, but my father believed that boarding schools really, in those days it was true also, that they really made you independent and strong and all that sort of thing. So all of us older brothers and sisters, in the order I'm 5th in the family, we were all in the boarding schools. And my next younger brother was also in a boarding school, and we were all in different places. I was in Lahore in a convent, Sacred Heart School, and my elder sister Lata, she was in a staunch Hindu boarding school, Sir Gangaram school, being run by Sarojini Naidu's sister. So for him, he wanted to see which is better, which education is better. But I was there for 1 year, and they were very strict. And strangely, I remember the names of my matrons, all these sisters. Even today, I remember my number was hostel number was 67, and so on. And there, if you did not speak in English, you got caning. So within a year, when I came to Pondicherry, none of the other young people spoke English. I mean, they were just learning, and I was speaking English. So that is why also I was put, just because I spoke English, I was put in a higher class with which I could not cope. I could not cope with the classes, the rest of the class. But because I spoke English, I was with them. So because I spoke English, I was already good in speaking, and I think we, in our family, we all recite. I think it's inborn or whatever you may call it. So the first December, 2nd December, there was no 1st December then. The 2nd December program was being organized, and Rani Di was our English teacher, and she gave a poem by Pooja Lal. Thou art my little lovely mother, I am thy little child. It was a poem of three stanzas. And she said all the children will learn, and in the class we had a kind of competition. And myself and Manoj, we were selected as the best candidates. So we both had to recite in front of mother to be able to get selected to recite on the stage of 1st December. So I still remember, I was so nervous. Manoj recited, and then I recited. I didn't get selected. Manoj got selected. But still it was, that was the first recitation that I did. After that, there was a following year, the older children of the ashram, today they are all big people, they were performing Ahana. And myself and Usha, I remember, and 2 others, 4 of us girls, we were made to, throughout we were standing, 4 of us, just to be barely able to speak 2 lines together. But we were on the stage the whole period, half an hour, 45 minutes. But we felt great that we were on the stage, you know. It was like that in those days. Everything was so little and so simple, and no exposure we had at all. Then when we used to go to the mother, 6 of us every day, we started doing recitations in front of mother. We would pick a poem and recite in front of her. I was always fond of that kind of thing, so the others also joined in it. We would recite. So every month 1 poem we recited. And we were very small then, very young, I think 13, 14. And today's 13 and 14 year children are quite different from our age group, 13 and 14. So once we found it very powerful, the children of Wotan. We didn't know what Wotan is. And then we picked that poem and we were reciting and enjoying it. And then we went to Niruddha to ask what is Wotan and what is the meaning of. He said, you are going to recite this poem. And he laughed, and then we dropped it. Anyhow, then in those days, sometimes mother would comment on our recitation and tell us how to do and everything. Then she picked on the God's labor, a God's labor. I don't remember whether that was before or the hymn to Durga. Anyhow, she picked on the God's labor, And on the stage, a prayer was recited in every possible language of the world that we could get at that time. And there were all these, there was an old Austrian man, and we used to laugh so much because it sounded so funny to our ears. He recited a prayer in Austrian, and then somebody recited in German, and somebody in Japanese, and somebody in something. Lata recited in Hindi, and so there is a picture of it in the bulletin, all standing together, and we 6 of us, we were in the center, in front, and when everybody had finished reciting the everybody had finished reciting the prayer that they had selected. Each one had selected their own prayer. It was not that it was the same prayer. Then the 6 of us recited a God's labor, and that was pretty long. I think 20 minutes recitation.
Yes.
And for that she gave a lot of time to us, and we repeated and repeated in front of her, and she told us how to recite it. I today also still have my paper on which I made my notes as which one is going to be a flat recitation, and where I have to go on a higher pitch, and where I have to go on a lower pitch, and where I have to make some modulations, and so all that kind of thing. I still have that paper with me, and she taught us to recite that. And another time, we, as I said, we used to recite a lot in front of her. We did the hymn to Durga, which she loved. And when Pondicherry got merged with India, then there was a big function, public function, in those garden in the center of
Park.
In the
park. They
Ah.
had put up a stage, and the whole town had collected, and the ashram people had done a function. I only remember 2 items of the thing. One was this dance drama by I don't know if it was Anuben or it was Shubhadi, or together they did, but there was a dance drama, and I recited the hymn to Durga alone. There were other things also, but I can't remember everything. So this hymn to Durga, when I recited, I remember even today that mother made me practice so much in front of her. She gave so much time, and she trained me in every sentence how it has to be done, where I have to go slow, where I have to speak more powerfully, and where I have to be gentle, everything. And she made me practice it every day when I used to go up to her.
It would be nice if you can read out those hymn to Durga and God's labor
I
sometime.
have done. In Delhi it is there. Here it is not.
On video.
Not on video,
Ah.
but otherwise. I do it very often in Delhi. They ask me to recite some. So it has been. My father was mad about hymn to Durga. No, sorry, about God's labor. Even when Chitra used to come to Delhi, he would put her on the stage for children to hear how she recites the God's labor. And I have recited it umpteen times in Delhi, and still do sometimes. Both these and other recitations also, of course.
If you remember a few lines, you can give us some sample.
It needs a little quietening down, but then I may not lose link anyhow. A God's Labor by Sri Aurobindo. I have gathered my dreams in a silver air, between the gold and the blue, unwrapped them softly and left them there, my jeweled dreams of you. I had hoped to build a rainbow bridge, marrying the soil to the sky, and so in this dancing planet midge, the moods of infinity. But too bright were our heavens, too far away, too frail their ethereal stuff, too splendid and sudden our light could not stay. The roots were not deep enough. He who would, if I have to think so much of the
It's
words,
very beautiful. Oh, but it's very special.
this poem is really
Thank you
very
so
beautiful.
much.
So continuing with that, so that is how she did with the recitations. Then we were living in the boarding, and our boarding was the first boarding, as I told you the other day. And in this boarding, we used to celebrate the 15th of January as our special day. And the first 1 or 2 years, mother also came to the, not first 1 or 2 years, first 1 or 2 years she was not coming out. But after she started coming out, first 1 or 2 years she attended the our program. And there we used to do all kinds of play and recitations and all these things. And once we wanted to do a play, and I found a Christian play. I found a Christian play, and I took that play and I changed everything in it. It was the search of a young man for something, I don't remember in Christianity what he was searching, but I said he's looking for the psychological perfection, and then all the 5 petals, and I wrote that very childishly. I was so young myself. So I changed all that and then brought it to the stage. How much mother always, not only me, with everybody, she praised creativity so much. She really made you feel very special. And for that play, she gave me so much. She praised me so much for it, and next morning when I went to her, she even gave me a gift as a prize for the play that I had written. And so I have the play, I've lost the first page, I've lost the last page. So I'm trying to figure it out, maybe someday I'll take it out. But now when I read what I have written, I find it so childish that it's not funny. But this is, she encouraged everybody. We used to have our boarding place, and in the major things, we did Perseus the Deliverer also. We did a part of it in our boarding thing, because on the big stage, whenever it was always Manoj, Amita, Mona, especially Amita was always there, and people like that. We were younger and also not probably as good as them in any way to be selected. So the major things, I don't remember having done anything very much except this in the early years, like God's Labor we recited, Hymn to Durga we recited, and once I think it was a prayer, one Darshan Day Chitrayanda I recited a garland woven from Savitri, selected by Amal Kiran. But these were all small things. It wasn't. And in the boarding we did a lot, in the boarding house for the 15th August. We were very, very active. So that's it. That's all I have done on the stage, in theatre or anywhere.
Anything with music
No, not.
or art?
I was zero in art, and music, I was not gifted, but I loved music. I learned to play a little bit of flute. I learned to play the sarangi, which I can't anymore. I can still play the harmonium. Then I learned to play Hawaiian guitar. But all these were just basic, absolutely basic. Nowhere But I had this interest in music, and I had, for those days, I had a fabulous collection of records. First the 78 RPMs, and then later the 33, the long playing records. I had a fabulous collection, and I used to organize teaching of music in my room with my group children. If it rained, then I would bring the children in and I would put one song, repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and the children would sing and learn it. So that way, and the children loved it. They used to come and learn songs in my room. But it was not that I was teaching them. I was playing the records and they were learning.
They were what kind of music and songs?
They were mostly bhajans. They were these children's songs. One man went to mow, he went to mow a meadow. What was the great fellow who used to do a lot of tongue twisters? Western music also, children's songs. And then that leads me to, reminds me that I was collecting these children's songs in French and all that, and finally I found a record of French Canadian folk songs, it was called. It's still in the library. French Canadian folk songs. And I got so excited, I told mother upstairs, I found this. Even when mother was playing on the organ, and once in a while she was teaching us songs in the beginning. The six of us with Wilfie was around, and she taught us Kaderish c'est la trois maisons. Then she taught us another 2-3 days. She took us there, and we sang these French songs with mother playing on the organ also. So coming to that, when I found that, I was very excited because those 2-3 songs were the ones that mother had taught us were in that record. So I told her, she said, you play them in the evening today during meditation. I was, for a period, during meditation, it was not always Shunilda's music. They were Western classicals. And I didn't know much of anything. But I used to go and select. I knew that these are classics, and mother loved the classics, and I didn't choose anything wrong. But sometimes Vivaldi, sometimes Bach, sometimes something. I used to select the records, and that was played during meditation. So then when I told her about this record, she said, you put it at meditation time. So I put it at meditation time, and she enjoyed it so much, and everybody came and scolded me. What a fool, are these meditation songs? They weren't meditation songs, but mother was so happy to hear them. She said, oh, say, I remembered all of them from my childhood, she said. So, things like that. She came out with something always, which broke all our fixed notions. She broke everything at one stroke. So people who thought you can only meditate with this or that, she said, put this for meditation.
Yes, there's the story of Champaklal that he tells about the plastic flowers. How mother didn't like plastic flowers, and then suddenly one day she said, oh, they're so beautiful. It's breaking our ideas.
Yes, she was always doing that. I mean, she came out as a surprise very often with things like that. So what were we talking about?
She gave a lot of importance to creativity.
She gave a lot of importance to creativity, and in those days we were always doing new things. Like we made a group, Parul, Ravibala, Sumedha, myself and Badul. 5 of us. Later Himanshu joined us. 5 of us, we were doing acrobatics. We were, when mother was, marching was going on in the playground, mother was sitting there. We would go to the gymnastic room and we would try all kinds of pyramids, different pyramids, and I have pictures of them even. I mentioned about it in my book, Growing Up with the Mother. And we would do pyramids and all that, and then as soon as we achieved a little, 2 or 3 little things we felt were difficult. Today when I look at them, they are not really so difficult, and when you see on the web what all is available, But anyhow, for us it was something, and we would perform them in front of mother in the evening, just for 5 minutes, and then she would pat us on the back, and that was great for us. And so this we were going. Then we asked her for a name. Then she gave the name "Conquering the Impossible" to our group. But before giving the name, she wrote so many, not so many, 4 or 5 different possibilities, and then out of that she selected. I have all the 4 or 5 possibilities, and then what she finally selected for our group. So we were very proud of the group, and we did all kinds of. So it was in every direction that she encouraged creativity. And anybody who did well, whether it was poetry, whether it was writing, whether it was, if it was brought to her knowledge that so and so had done this, and she would read, and she would always acknowledge, praise, give encouragement.
Did mother ever speak about Savitri with you?
Yes, we used to sometimes select passages from Savitri also and recite in front of her. And as I told you, that Chitra and I once recited a garland from Savitri, and everybody was talking about Savitri. The older people were always reading and talking about it. So this is after Sri Aurobindo had passed away, and several years later, when I was more mature, I wanted to understand Savitri. I was reading a little bit, but I didn't understand a thing. So I went to mother. I said, "Can I go to so and so? I don't want to name the person. Can I go to so and so and understand Savitri?" And she said, "No, never. Nobody. You should go to nobody." And she said that you should only understand what you can yourself. Then she explained to me. She says, when you have a vessel that can contain that much of quantity of water or whatever, it will, the minute it is more than that, it spills out, it doesn't enter. It can't take more than that. So so it is with the human brain. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri is so vast that the human brain cannot contain it. And so they understand only what their own brain can take. And then when you go to understand from them, they explain to you only what they have understood, which may not be the real truth. So she said, don't ever, that I have never asked anybody to explain the Savitri to me. I don't. I always read myself, and at that time I understood nothing. Now I can say that there are passages that I understand the meaning at my own level naturally. As mother said, whatever my brain can take. But that is what she was very clear about. She said, don't go to anyone to understand Savitri. It should be direct with the words of Sri Aurobindo only.
That is one of the most important things that I've ever heard. Your correspondence with mother, her letters to you, yours to her, you must have a huge collection.
Actually, all this I have already written in my book, Growing Up with the Mother, not in great detail, because there the importance has been on the answers that mother has given in my notebooks. I have some 30 notebooks altogether, which also include maybe 10 or 12 of these flower notebooks, and then the thoughts and aphorisms, the later part which I did with her upstairs, and then on education, there are a lot of questions, answers I have on education, and on sadhana and life, and whatever I was doing my own sadhana, whatever I would have written to her. So like this, I have about 30 notebooks, and most of it has been, I would say all of it has been published actually.
Oh,
And while we were just talking about God's labor, I don't know if that has been published or not. We once decided, this was probably as late as 70 or 71, on the daughter's birthday, we decided to do a God's labor. So I went to mother and I told her, Mother, we are planning to do a God's labor in a dance drama form. And by then we were old enough and we could really do things in a more elaborate way. But we should understand the meaning of the poetry first before we can put it into a dance drama form. So she said, okay, you write and I will answer. So when I wrote the first para, then she gave an answer. And for me, the jeweled dreams of you meant mother. But she said, she didn't say mother, she said it is the universal spirit or something, or the universal power or whatever. I don't remember, I shouldn't say anything wrong. So she wrote that, and then the next 3 paras I sent. After that she said that she wrote and gave that this is something which is personal, I don't want to write here, and to you I will explain, but I don't want to put it down in writing. So then when I went to her the next day, she took almost an hour to explain to me the entire poem, A God's Labor. And basically what she said, for me to remember those great details are difficult, but she explained how Sri Aurobindo went deeper and deeper down into the human consciousness and dirt and filth to bring it to the higher surface, and ultimately what his dream is and what will happen, and the end again, the golden bridge, where the children of paradise will come down. All that, she explained the whole thing for more than an hour. And so I had then very good ideas about how to put it on into a dance drama form, but there was no harmony or whatever between ourselves, and the whole thing fizzled out. Because you can't do it without everybody participating in harmony. You can't do a thing like that. So that did not happen, so we never put up the play. I wish someone does it someday.
But so much time Mother gave you.
She gave so much, but what happened to me? I'm still the same.
How many hours you used to spend with the mother every day?
It all depended. It all depended. There were days when I spent many hours with her, and it was at different times, playground. Then every night after finishing all the activities, she went into her room, and I used to go in her room in the playground. Every day I used to go there, and Gauridi and all, they used to arrange the place, and there was always a plate of jasmine. So every night she gave me a handful of jasmine before leaving the playground, and she had told me, put it under your pillow and sleep with it, I'll be with you. So every night I used to put in that smell of jasmine and sleep with it. It was really beautiful, and I used to be so tired because I used to do so much sports. I had left school, I was not in school, so it was always either I was working in the office also concerning sports, and otherwise in my free time it was, I used to do music and recitations and this kind of things. These were my hobbies. But and by the end of the, you see, when Saumitra, the Werner Haubrich, he came, the first coach from Germany was brought by Madhusudan for the ashram, and he used to give us 2 hours of solid coaching in the morning from 6 to 8 at the sports ground. And he made us work so hard physically, run, run, run. And it was real tough training, 2 hours of that. And we had this judo master, our present, he's still there.
Yes,
I don't know how old he is, must be in his 90s now. He would not let me off. If you have there, it doesn't mean that you can not do judo. So Parul, Ajit, myself, all of us who were going for the morning training there and could not go to his judo classes at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, what time we did. We started going at 10 in the morning. So 6 to 8, have our bath, take breakfast, then do his judo classes. After that, I would transcribe all of this Saumitra's talks and all that. I would transcribe, write out. I still have the file, and type it all and keep it, put it in the file. And then in the evening by 4:30, I was taking group of the green group children. Then 5:30, I was doing my own group. Then at 6:30, the marching would start. When the marching was going on, then with Pavitrada and me and many others, not just Pavitrada used to do a lot of walking. He was fond of walking race, and he used to do very well. So we would go walking, speed walking to Park Guest House and back. At that time it was called Park Asharmo. Back, and by the end of the day I just had to put my head on the pillow and I was fast asleep. I used to wake up with difficulty. It was always Parul who used to shake me up. She used to wake me. If she wasn't my friend, I wouldn't have woken up in the morning. So it was, and we took it. I mean, I was 18, 20 years old. And there is another thing that I keep telling everybody, that food is not at all important, I realize today. We were in the boarding, and the dining hall, mother had no money. There were many days when mother didn't know from where the next meal in the dining hall is to come from. After she left her body, money has been never any problem in the ashram, but at that time, and when she had, she gave. She gave for everything to grow. She never hoarded money. Never hoarded money for anything. Never in the bank, never anything. If she had it, it was used up. So we were not getting enough milk. Half a cup of milk, and the bread had no butter in it or no ghee or whatever they put was not there. So the bread was hard. It wouldn't even soak in that much milk. And we lived on that kind of food with one banana, and I was working the whole day, nothing, and I'm still in good health after that. You must have this, you must have that. Started much later in the ashram itself, it started. Everybody must get an egg, everybody must get vitamins, so you go to the dispensary and you get your vitamins. But for so many years we didn't get anything. And in the boarding, we didn't like the dining hall food. So we complained to mother, the food is too bad. We did complain very often. And then mother sent a lady to specially make one vegetable for us separately every day besides the dining hall food. Now this lady was allotted 1 bottle of oil per day. So she would pour the whole bottle into our food, and when it came to us to eat, we used to wash the potato, and it was everyday potatoes, because that was special. There was nothing, or it was easy, or whatever. And when we complained again to mother that the oil is too much, then she told for a few days it would be all right, then it would stop. But on the other hand, mother herself gave us a lot of importance. Every week, the evening tiffin used to come from mother's kitchen, and we got lovely things to eat then. We had lovely small biscuits, but everything was so limited. It was not you could eat as much as you like. So sometimes we got biscuits, sometimes we got bhutta, and it was very well made and everything. And once a week we used to get, in the early years, we used to get Sri Aurobindo's prasad.
Oh,
And that used to be little distributed in everybody's dishes. And Chitra was, I think, at that time 4 or 5 years old. She says, I won't take Sri Aurobindo's jhutha. Then we explained to her, then it became all right. But we used to get Mother's Prasad, and we used to get this. But we were pampered because our parents were not there. Whenever Mother got anything special, especially food stuff, it would always come to us. But somewhere we learned to grumble, which today, going back, I think we were just grumbling all the time. This is not there, this is not there, vitamins are not enough, we don't get this and we don't get that. Where we learnt all this, God knows. But the food was definitely not anywhere near what it is today. Anywhere near.
and yet you were able
And
to work.
we worked so hard. We had strength. We did all physical exercises and strength building exercises, and nothing. We are fine. Even today, I mean, I don't see any reason why. And I don't believe in these things, because when I look back, I say I grew up without all these things. You should eat this vitamin and that vitamin, and you should have this in your diet and that in your diet. I don't really care for all that. It's the attitude, it's how you eat. Although, as I said, we used to grumble a lot, but still, it was prasad. Somewhere it was from Mother. Somewhere it came with the right nutrients for us. Or how we received it is another matter. But she gave it with all the right nutrients for us. So, even today, I tell all the children, even in Delhi, I tell them that I don't believe in all these food things. What you get, you eat with the right spirit is the only thing. And if we look at all the messages on food that Mother has given, there is nowhere message that you should, for a healthy body, this is what you should eat and that is what you should eat. Nowhere. Because these are all things man-made and they keep changing. They keep changing. Today this is good for you, tomorrow that is not good for you. So what next, Narad?
Any remembrances of Sri Aurobindo when you went before him and Mother?
Yeah, I told you the other day, that was finished.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's right. The big thing was the ashram, the atmosphere of the ashram in the early days, the city itself, Pondicherry.
Pondicherry was a very, very small town, very small. Not town, it was a village actually. And on this side, the white town and the black town was evident in those days, very evident. And when we came, I remember going to the market with my father. There were just 3 shops there. One was the general store where you could buy a lot of things, and it was called Qasim. It was a Muslim gentleman, and he was a friend of my father. So Jitendra and I, as children, we would often run there and ask him for sweets, and he would give 1 sweet to each of us, and we were very happy, just with 1 toffee, and we would run back. We never paid. Maybe my father came and paid it for it afterwards or whatever, maybe, I don't know. But he was a kind man. The second shop was a cloth shop, and the third shop was a bar. That was all the 3 shops in Pondicherry.
Entire Pondicherry.
Entire Pondicherry. And then there was the marketplace, which was the fish market and the vegetable market. That was a little away. This Nehru Street was only these 3 shops. And the fish market and all, of course, was out of bounds completely. And for us, it was very far. Even the tennis ground was very far in those days. So we were not allowed, and I have never been there as a child, later once or twice maybe.
The population of the Pondicherry must have been very less that time.
Population was very little. There were just 3 cars: mother's car, the governor's car, and there was a rich man. I don't know if he was Silvaraju or what he was called. He had a car, and any time a car would be passing, we would run out to see a car. And the traffic was only these hand-pulled rickshaws, also not so many, because ashram side not many people used the rickshaws. It was only on beyond the governor's house, on that side people used to these hand rickshaw, and there were no cycle rickshaws or no nothing.
Cycles?
But ashramites had cycles, and it was a great pride to own a cycle. I remember the mother gave me a cycle in 1949. I got my cycle. It was a French cycle, and I was so proud of it, and I used to clean it and keep it in a perfect condition. But when the tires got spoiled, they were not available, because it was a French size which was not available in India. Then mother wrote to somebody, in those days it was free export, so they got the tires from France for me. And there was a cycle department, and everything was done by the cycle. You gave your cycle once a week for oiling. So I would ride 6 days a week. 7th day you went and deposited it at the cycle department, and they would clean and oil and return your cycle. Later it became so many cycles, of course it's impossible. And that was it. And everywhere, we went on the beach, we went on the pier. The pier was half a kilometer in to the sea, and we could walk there. It was beautiful. Sometimes our boarding wardens used to take us in the evening or night for a walk, and we used to go up to nobody on the beach except a handful, 4 or 5 ashramites you might see taking a walk. The local people never went for a walk. It's only after Jipmer came up that some doctors started coming to take their walks. Till then, the beach was like our beach. Even the beach on the sea was more than almost 3/4 of a kilometer away. The sea was. So we had this huge beach, and in the early years we have played games there, kabaddi and all these. We used to play there. We did wrestling there. Then discus throw, javelin throw was learnt there. We had no other place to do these things. And slowly the sea has come now. There is no beach at all. And the sea was. We learned swimming in the sea. I also, and everybody else also learned swimming in the sea. And we used to go sometimes. Once I remember we swam up to a ship right there. The only danger we were afraid of was in specific seasons, and somehow we knew. I think it was during the rainy seasons or what, when the jellyfish were there.
Yeah, jellyfish.
And sometimes the jellyfish used to, Kake got once jellyfish so badly that he was suffering like anything till we found something to rub on his body, and then it cooled down. But it was like that. We had, everything was our playground. But boarding was strict. We were not allowed outside the building. And we had no playing area inside the building. Very little. We had a small courtyard, probably little bigger than this room, where there were 4 papaya trees and 1 neem tree. And that neem tree was a great attraction. We used to climb up on the neem tree and play on that, climbing the tree. Every day we would be up on the tree. And these 4 papaya trees were not to be touched. We had a gardener. The gardens were divided. So this was under one gardener, and his wife used to come and count the papayas every day. That we don't. So what we needed more place to play. So there was 1 hour in the afternoon when our boarding wardens used to go to see mother when we were left alone. The doors were locked, we couldn't go out. So we started cutting at the root of the papaya tree, and the next storm the papaya tree fell, so we got that much more space. So 2 papaya trees we finished to make our playground a little bigger, and in that we used to play gulli danda and tops, this lattu and marbles and cricket, and everything was in that much space. Only in the evening we were allowed to go out, and in the morning 10 o'clock the gate used to open and take us in a line to the ashram to go to mother. And rules were, we couldn't even go to my own parents would come, we couldn't go and eat there. We had to take mother's permission, which was granted very rarely. But it was the whole thing was like that. It was and very quiet and no noise, of course.
How many cycles ashram had that time?
When I got my cycle, I think something like, I was among the first children to get among the younger ones. People older than me already had. I don't think, outside it's a guess, but I think outside the ashram there would never be more than 20-25 cycles parked. Maximum. And that also on a very specific time if we were all coming together to the mother. But towards the end, cycles became a problem because parking became a problem, and one cycle would fall, all the cycles would fall, and cycles started getting stolen, and the cycle department couldn't cope up with the repairs. So all these things. And another thing was there, when I talked about the shops, there were no shoe shops. Nobody wore shoes in those days. The local people never wore anything, and we as children hardly ever wore. We were given one pair of chappals from the ashram from Govindraju, who used to make the chappals. He had a shoemaker, and it was a department of the ashram where chappals were made to your size, and you would get it one pair a year. And I remember as children that one pair I don't think lasted us more than 15 days because we lost it. We would put it somewhere, forget it. The servants used to take away chappals. They just used to. It was a big attraction for them. They had nothing. So they used to steal these chappals. And I was always barefoot. I remember one day we had a competition among the boarding children when the tar road came. When the first, I don't know which year it was, who can stand at 12 o'clock in the hot sun on the tar road without barefoot? And we all stood there for an hour without difficulty because our feet were so hardened. Nothing, no problem at all. So life was very simple. We had very little. And what we had, we lost always. And today, there is such an abundance of things. It's sad. It's not good, this abundance.
And mother was there always.
Mother
for
was
any help,
always.
any difficulty.
Yes. Whenever we needed anything, we went, Mother, we need this. And she would always give. It was not that we were deprived of things. Never. We were never deprived of anything. But we had to ask for what we needed, and we got what we needed. She was, that way, she really took care of us.
And could you tell us a little bit about your memories of the different ashram departments? How they began, and you mentioned Udar. And how
Udar
he
did most
some
of the
things.
departments, but I think the furniture department was there for a very, very long time. Long before Udar came also, I think the furniture department was there. Harpagon workshop started with Udar because of Golkond.
Yes.
And that also was before we came, but when we came, Harpagon was full of life. Anything and everything was done and made in Harpagon. You didn't buy things. Everything was made there. And what other...
Bakery you had?
Bakery was very much there when we came already. I think it was a firewood oven,
Same place?
same place. And then it has changed over the years, and now it's a very modern bakery. But it has been there all along. And then laundry was
Laundry.
there. Laundry was there. During our holidays, we never got holidays in the early years. The schools ran continuous. Maybe 3 days there would be a break. So you return your books, and the books were passed on to the next class, and so on. But later, as the number of children increased, then we used to have 15 days holidays, because Aratidi and all needed to take back the books and see that they are in good condition and repair them and return and give them to the next child. So in those 15 days, mother used to give us a department to go and work in. So I have worked in the laundry, and not washing clothes. I learned how to, for 15 days I learned how to iron clothes. And although I don't iron my clothes easily, but I still know how to iron them. And then I worked in the garden with Parichanda 1 year, and I worked with Nipinda for 1 year, but that's all. I don't know. With Ravindraji, those days milk was not available, so from France, mother used to get this condensed milk, which was diluted, and so opening those cans, and that was the best work, because we could lick the cans at the end. So things like that. We were made to work always. It was not a holiday of that kind, just wasting your time. But we used to play so much.
So always occupied. Something.
No, in the afternoon. In the early years, the school was only in the morning. In the afternoon, we didn't have anything. But then, very soon after that, the afternoon started. So we used to play indoor games. We had Monopoly, we had Carom in the boarding. And we used to leave it and come back and play. And it used to go on, our games used to go on for days together. And we invented our own games also, and we used to play them, play like anything. I don't see children play today, not only in the outside world, but even here. Children, either they have no time, or they have too many other distractions like television and computers and all, but they don't play the way we played. We played and played and played. That was very healthy, and it should be like that for children.
Yes.
That is actually the right foundation for physical culture.
I would love to hear a little bit about your work with Parichand, because he was so close to me.
So, Parichanda, I used to work in the physical education department, and I often used to go to Parichanda, otherwise also, and to take some flowers to arrange, or then with Parichanda, when I was doing the book of flowers, then also I had contact. But let me go back to a small story of our dortoir, our boarding. One day mother said to our wardens that all the children should learn to take care of plants, and they should learn a little bit of gardening. So every one of us was to select a plant and keep that in a pot in the boarding and take care of it. And so we all went to Parichanda's garden, and he had kept all the pots ready, and we all picked our plants. I don't remember the rest, but I remember Urmila Ben. She took supramental consciousness, hibiscus, and she was the best. She really cared for her plant. She did everything that was necessary. She was very fond of gardening, and even today she continues to do that kind of what she started then, she still does. The others, I don't remember what they did and whether they cared for their plants or didn't care, but soon after many plants started dying, and they were removed, and only the 2-3 people who were taking care, their plants remained. My plant remained, and I never cared. I never watered it, I never did anything, and my plant survived. It is only now recently, after I went in 1976 to Delhi and started doing gardening, that I realized that I had selected Divine's Presence and it needs nothing. So Divine's Presence was there, it was, my plant didn't die, and I couldn't understand why everybody's plants were dying and mine was not, because I was hardly ever watering, but it needs no watering. It's a desert plant, am I right? So, so Parichanda contact was, I was never interested in gardening in those days, but now I'm very much interested. Now I do quite a lot of gardening.
But you
in
said you
Delhi.
worked with him for a while.
Oh, yes, watering. He would give the easy. We were so small. So he would give us easy work, water the garden for 15 days, 2 hours a day. So,
Mother's teaching on education, the free system versus the other systems, older systems.
the free progress system is, I don't know much about it because I was not in the school anymore when they started, Padma and Remo and Tanmada, and Kaki was very, very free progress involved. And he left the school when in between they had stopped the free progress system. He said, I will not work in a school where there is no free progress system.
Ooh.
He was very, very committed, extremely committed. So whatever little from Kake I used to hear about the classes and what they were doing and all that. But I was not, really not involved with it. Except that when I was doing these questions and answers on education, not in the playground, but afterwards in my notebook, sometimes the teachers used to give me questions to ask. So those are being printed in my book.
Balcony darshans early in the morning. I remember going in 1961. When did they begin, the old balcony?
I don't know when they began, but they were there right since I came.
Around 1938. Something like that.
Was it then?
But they were there when we came in 1944, and I know how difficult it was to get up in the morning and run to the balcony and stand. But I can tell you that Mother knew the day I was not there. I was asked. Whenever I went to her, oh, I didn't see you, my child, today at the balcony. What happened, Mother? I was sleeping. It was so even, as I told you that I used to do so much sports, I would tell Parul, shake me up, and I would run to the bathroom, just wash my face, and run to the balcony darshan without doing anything else, then come home and take a bath and everything. Which many of the older people used to tell me, it's not right. When you go to see Mother, you should have cleaned yourself and you should have taken a bath and gone. But I was finding it very difficult to get up so early in the morning. And most of us had our place at the darshan time, where you would stand.
Yes.
Most of us had it.
How many there used to be at that time? 44, 21?
See, there were guests and visitors also, but during darshan time. Otherwise, I think there would be at least, more than 100 people at the balcony, 200 people sometimes.
And every place used to be fixed.
Everybody had their place, and that is where Mother would look, and she would know that I was not there.
And take your place.
Eh?
If some visitors come.
No, it is a road. No, if they took my place, I would stand in front of them or stand behind them. But I would make sure that Mother sees me. That was also there with all of us, that Mother should see me. And she really, really took a lot of time and went looking for all the people. She was at the balcony sometimes for 20 minutes.
Oh.
And looking this way, then next, and then next, and next, and all round, and then come back. And I mean, then she would stand and go for 2 minutes meditation, and then she would leave.
And if it was 20 minutes, you were not feeling it strained to look up.
Once I fainted.
Oh,
Once I fainted. But I think I was not well that day. I had fever or something. But there were cases of fainting every now and then. The older people, not the young ones.
So what mother did for that?
I don't even know if mother got to know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
And what are the shortest times you would stay?
No, I think 5-10 minutes she was always there.
mhm.
That is just after the sunrise. Or
No, there was a time. She would come at 6:15 in the
6:15
morning.
in the morning, yes.
Yeah, then slowly the time shifted and it was getting late because of her other work. She started her day, she was not resting literally 1 hour a day, she was reclining, or 2 hours a day. She was reclining on the sofa, but people started going to her. There were people who had their turn at 4 in the morning, then there were people who went to her at 5 in the morning, then there were people who stood in that passage when mother goes to the balcony, and sometimes she would talk to somebody, sometimes she would, they would talk to her or something, she would get a little late. And,
So she had hardly any sleep, just
maximum 2 hours, I think.
And that she
Then
didn't
dinner,
Yeah.
Pranabda used to go up at 8:30, he would go. Yes, mother used to leave the playground around 7:30. So 1 hour later he would be going up 8:30, 8:45. And then from then mother used to have her dinner at 9 o'clock. Then it became 9:30, then it became 10, then it became 10:30. And she has had, sometimes Pranabda has had to wait till 2 o'clock to have his dinner.
in the morning.
In the morning. He would have his dinner at 2 and then mother would recline, and then she was up again at 4 o'clock.
you had dinner with the mother sometimes.
No, never. Prasad, yes. Every Wednesday, mother's, I don't know when it started, which year, but for several years, mother's kitchen used to make custard on Wednesdays. So mother only gave me 2 boxes. I don't know how it started or whatever. So she would have her custard and the remaining used to be put in that box, and I used to get it on Wednesday. And I used to put my other box there for the next Wednesday. So it remained circling like that. I have both those stainless steel dabbas still with me. I preserved them. And so I know Wednesdays, that is, I mean, I used to get that. Whether it was not for dinner, she used to have it at lunch. So after that I used to get
She used to give chocolates to some people.
I used to get a lot of chocolates. Pranabda used to get, and Pranabda also, he had no time to, and he was always dieting because he was always getting fat, so I used to get those chocolates. And all those chocolates were made by Dayabhai in Honesty Society, and they were very special. And I used to use these chocolates in the group for prizes. Who can do peacock for so many seconds, and who does this and who does. So the children, and whenever the children used to get the chocolates, they used to be very happy. And sometimes I used to scold a child and then regret it afterwards, then I used to give that child. So whenever they got a scolding, they said, "Terko chocolate mil gaya." So those chocolates were all used in the groups mostly. How much can one eat? And every day the same thing. So.
Do you remember the soup ceremony?
No, I was not there. This
You were not there.
mother's
That
soup
was
ceremony was earlier. Much earlier.
Much earlier.
Much. I don't know. Not in our time.
Ah,
Our time it was, the soup was from the dispensary. We used to go every day during recess to the dispensary to drink soup.
and Dr. Niprendra was there then?
Dr.
At that
Nipendra
time?
was there. Oh, he was so fond of the children. We had our boarding, and then we had a terrace which down was the school building and up was the terrace, and later that became the gymnasium, the storeroom of sports, but the terrace belonged to the boarding. So, and whenever anybody would be sick, then Anuben or Kusumben would go to the corner of the staircase, and you know where Albert Das department is. That corner room was Nipinda's room. So from there they would shout Nipinda, one shout, and the light would be on. And he was a very light sleeper, and within 5 minutes he would be in the boarding to look at the child who was sick. And today when I look back, for some child complains of stomach pain, Nipinda would come in the middle of the night. Anybody had a little fever, wouldn't wait till the morning, we would call Nipinda, he would come. He was such a gem. But the thing is that when things started becoming bigger and bigger, you couldn't do the same thing. When there were a few children, it was okay.
Yes, yes.
So
Number has increased.
then also, even in our time, the numbers started increasing so much.
There are so many in your family who have such wonderful memories.
Yeah.
Lata has shared a lot with us, and I wondered if you could just tell us a couple of stories about Kaki and Mother.
Kaki and Mother I've already written, which was printed in the Golden Chain.
But people want to see you say it.
Kaki, when he came and my father and mother left him here, was when he was, I think, just 2.5.
Oh.
And I was, how old? I'm exactly 10.5 years elder to Kaki. So if he was 2.5, I was 12 or 13 then. I was 13 years old. And everybody adored him. He was such a lovely child. Such beautiful pictures we have of his childhood. And then he was staying, and Lata was the elder sister. She is 4.5, almost 5 years elder to me. But she didn't have that nature of looking after the child. So it was me who was looking after Kaki and bringing him up and all that. And everywhere I went, he used to tag along. I used to take him with me when I went to Mother. So with Mother, when we had every day we had a small ceremony with Chom, Jhumur, Bubu, Gauri, Parul, myself. And in the beginning it was without Parul and Gauri, but these three and myself. Mother would put her hands round our shoulder and touch everybody, and each of us had to put the head against Mother's head.
Oh.
And then she would concentrate like that for a few minutes with us. And she said, a golden thread goes through my head and comes back to me, and I know exactly what you children are thinking all the time. And Kaki used to stand in the middle at that time. So he was going with us to Mother, and then every day Mother used to give us flowers, and there used to be a big plate of tomatoes piled up, and she would give us each a big tomato, this big size tomato. And one day, and I just remembered that she used to pick the tomato. It was not that she just picked up one tomato and gave. For each one, she would select the tomato and give, just as she would select all the flowers that she gave to each one. So she was selecting a tomato, and I could see that the top tomato is going to fall. So I was ready to catch it, and then it fell, and I dived and caught it halfway down. You won't believe how Mother hugged and kissed me for my presence of mind, or whatever. And these are small things, but she appreciated these things that showed that you were conscious. I think that is what she tried to express, that you should be conscious all the time and not be dreaming something else at that time. So we would all get a tomato and then we used to go. So Kake used to go with us, and then later we shifted to the other side because we were making it late. Mother was getting late and we were sitting there and people had to do other things. So for whatever reason she shifted us to the corridor side. And there, every day she used to give Kake sweets. So she had a bowl of sweets and she would give a sweet, and he would say, "Mother, mother, toppy, toppy," if she didn't give him immediately. So she would give him once, he'd put it behind his back and say, "Mother, mother, toffee," and then she would give him in another, on the other hand. And then he would again put out his hand, and mother said, "No, that's enough." She would give him as much as she wanted to give, and then that's it. And but he never made any tantrums or asked. When mother said enough, then it was enough, finished. He would also accept it. And then one day he said, "Mother, mother, running race." He learnt in the playground. So he wanted to do running race, and mother said, "All right." So he ran, just he shot off, and mother ran after him. And then he came back, because you had to come back to the starting line again. So he came back, "Mother, walking race." So he did walking race and mother walked after him. And then he came back. And then he said, "Now mother, rabbit race." He went down on all fours and he started, mother said, "Sergeant Puff." And every day we went up, he would show mother, "Mother, mother, batak, batak." There was a crane, Becalite crane in the corner. And every day he would show mother, "This is a batak, this is a crane." And mother would say, "Yes, yes." And one day mother patted the crane for him and he patted the crane. Then on his birthday, mother tied some balloons on the crane and she came to our house for his birthday. And she brought that crane to him for a gift. And we still have it.
And there was a story when he hurt his knee.
Oh, that was with my father.
Ah.
That was in the playground. He was with my father and he started running towards mother, or he was running, I don't know for what, and he fell down. And he hurt his knee and he screamed and started crying, and instead of running back to my father, he ran towards mother. And then mother...
He was trying to explain to mother what
yes,
happened?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, he was trying to tell mother how he fell down, because he didn't speak English and he used to talk in those days in Punjabi. And he told mother, "I fell like this and I hurt my knee." And one day when mother was sitting seeing the marching, he just walked up to her, and there used to be a footstool under her feet. So he pulled out that footstool from under her feet and he sat down on it and started watching the market. And I ran to stop him from doing it, and mother put out her hand. She said, "Don't say anything." We did that a few times.
Well, I think we've received so much from you these 2 days, and I hope you'll come many times back here and I will visit you also
Yeah.
and go to the mountains with you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.